Hello, everyone. Forest Focus. Nottingham Forest are off to Wembley on Sunday, and we can't wait. But how are Manchester City fans feeling about it? Are they confident they're going to win? What kind of team will we see? Joining me to discuss all that and a little bit more, it's great to have David Mooney from the Blue Moon podcast back with us. David, I feel like I've spoken to you a lot recently. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's because we played in the league so recently. That's what it is. It just like the FA Cup semi-finals do this every now and then, where they chuck in a fixture that you've recently played, and you think, oh well, we can learn a lot from that fixture. And the truth is, you can't. It's a brand new game. So yeah, it's be an interesting one.
I do think it's a very different game. I'll ask you about City tactically, but it feels like a few things have changed since then. How are you feeling about the game in general? We're recording this before you play Villa, which might put a different slant on it, but I don't think it puts too much of a different slant on it. How are you feeling about this one in general in the context of your season?
It's weird because in the context of the season, I'd have said, "Oh, I don't fancy Forest," but then I look at everybody else in the draw. I don't fancy Villa. I don't fancy Palace. I wouldn't have fancied anybody with the way that it's been going. But actually, on the sly, City have been doing all right recently. I can't think off the top of my head. Forest was the last defeat anyway. The last time that City lost, and in that run. They have played well. They've played badly. They've kind of played in the middle of all of that, and they've either drawn or won. And they've mainly won. And it's been quite a nice little bit of momentum that's been put together. So there is confidence ahead of the semi final, but still with the caveat of we know this team has its fragilities and we know this team can be got at. And I mean. I don't expect Forest to do anything tactically majorly different to the game at the City Ground because that's what you're good at. You're good at letting the other team have the ball, soak up the pressure, and then try and hit on the counter attack. It'd be very interesting if City went, "No, you have it," and see what happens. But like Guardiola won't do that. So it's that there's still the kind of trepidation of what's gone before this season. It's almost it's like a light version of post-traumatic stress disorder. You may still have the kind of comfort that everything is going fine and like the last few weeks have been fine, but still in the back of your mind, the start of the season and December especially was bad, and it was really bad, and that leaves kind of deep wounds that need to heal. So confident, but not unaware of the dangers that could be ahead.
It does feel like a few things have changed for City. I've not seen all the games, but looking at O'Reilly coming in at left back, whether that was planned or it was, whatever happened at halftime at Bournemouth, it feels like it's made you better with the ball, I think, from what I've seen. De Bruyne obviously looking fitter again. Like I say, O'Reilly coming in means Vardiol playing centre back. Is that a better look, this kind of thing we've seen the last month or so?
It's helped with stability. It really has. I mean, I like Kusanov, for instance, but I think the fact that he's new and he's young and he's being thrown into this team that is kind of like there's so many fires that need putting out. I think that kind of destabilizes things a little bit. Whereas O'Reilly is, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about him, but he's not a left back. He's an attacking midfielder that's playing at left back. So like there's still kind of like still the out of position element, and he can get caught out a little bit with the defensive side of the game. But I mean, City have got a history of turning attacking midfielders into decent left backs, so there's something there anyway. And he has brought with him stability. You can't deny that. I think a lot of that comes from Guardiola and Diaz being able to play centrally together. But take the goal at Everton that he scored. He put City in front at Everton, O'Reilly. And he's in that position because he's an attacking midfielder. He just kind of drifts into the near post role. And in the end, you have Matthias Nunes, who's playing right back, drilling the ball across to the left back, who's hovering at the near post. It's like that's not normal. Like the way those players have landed in those positions is not normal. It's kind of getting City back to the sort of positional play that they used to be pretty good at in seasons before. So O'Reilly's been a nice little revelation. He had played in that position before the Bournemouth game. In the last round, I think it was, yeah. But it had been the FA Cup basically where he'd been thrown in at left back, kind of see what you can do. And then the Bournemouth game, he didn't start. The team was all kinds of all over the place. And then when I saw Guardiola was making the substitution to bring O'Reilly on, I was like, well, this isn't going to solve the problems. And it solved all of the problems for that game. So it shows what I know, shows what Guardiola knows. But it has, the one thing it's done is give City a lot more stability at the back in possession. And the build-up has been a lot better with O'Reilly in left back. That isn't to say Guardiola isn't good at left back. He's obviously been great for City in that position. And there's something about, as soon as you play left back at City, there's something about you becoming the second greatest goal threat the team has after Erling Haaland. I don't really understand how that works, but it seems to work. So I would be shocked if O'Reilly didn't start the game at weekend. The way Guardiola joked after that Bournemouth game that he'd already told O'Reilly he was starting the semi-final, and there was loads of people like, was that a joke? Is he joking? And then he started every game since, so I don't see how that changes for this weekend.
I was going to ask you for a predicted team, but I think that's a bit silly when you've got a game tonight and we don't really know how they'll come out of it, and we don't know what Pep is going to do. But fitness permitting, is there a core group of players you think would definitely start this one, and who would they be if so?
It's really tricky. I don't know. So without Haaland, it will probably be Marmoush and De Bruyne in kind of some capacity. At Old Trafford, when they played in the derby there, De Bruyne was the furthest one forward and Marmoush was behind him. In other games, it's been the other way round. So you expect to see something like that. And even like the wingers are the most unpredictable part of the team at the moment, because you would say Doku and Savinho are the two kind of nailed on wingers. McAtee played the other week against Palace and did well. He missed a few big chances, but then got his goal. Grealish, I mean, I love Jack Grealish. He's been absent without leave this season. He's barely played, and I don't see that changing from now till the end of the season, really. Even if he's fit, I don't know where he comes in and when he comes in. But every now and then, Guardiola just goes, "Here you go, have a start for some reason." He started in most of the previous rounds. I don't think he started against Bournemouth, and then Real Madrid for some reason. And then, like in those games, did really well, and then just isn't there for the next game. And you have to assume it's attitude. You have to assume it's kind of behind the scenes stuff that is the prohibiting factor. But there is the chance that Grealish could come in. It seems unlikely, but that's the most likely. It sounds counterintuitive, but the most unlikely time for Jack Grealish to start is the most likely time that he will start. That's kind of how it works in the last kind of season or so. And then the defense. I think the defense is quite well settled. That I think it's unlikely to be Ederson. He got injured against Palace and didn't play against Everton. I don't think he'll play against Villa. I think it'll be Ortega in goal, and then in front of him you'll have Diaz and Guardiola, Nunez and O'Reilly as your back four. That is kind of pretty set. But even as you move ahead of that, Nico Gonzalez, who came in to kind of be the mini Rodri for the end of this season and kind of add a little bit of steel to the centre of midfield, doesn't always play. He comes in and out of the team. I've mentioned De Bruyne already. He's played a lot recently, and you said back to his best against Palace, yes. Against Everton, no. It's fluctuating for him. And then the rest of them, like chuck them in the air, see who lands on the pitch. It could be any of them. It could be Bernardo. It could be Gundogan. There's so many could be's that it's really impossible to kind of pick from there ahead. I think it all depends on the type of game Guardiola wants. I don't think he will. He doesn't like a transitional game anyway. But when you think of the game that City played recently at Everton, it was pretty obvious that he wanted a stodgy game. He wanted a game where neither team really created much, and City can try and nick it, and that's exactly what happened. He was a little bit more open and a little bit more attacking against Palace, I assume, because he thought there'd be more space. I think with Forest's counter-attacking abilities and the way that you like to sit deep and soak up pressure, I'd be more inclined to think he'll go for the stodginess option again and kind of 1,000 million passes and not let there be any Forest head of steam in there, or try not to let there be. So I can see it being more like an Everton team than a Palace team that he puts out. But he's surprised us a lot this season. I really don't know which way he'll go.
There's two factors around the game I want to get David's thoughts on, but just before we do that, a word for the Trent Navigation. A reminder, they're open from 7 a.m. on Sunday, so if you're travelling down and want to get some breakfast or some early beer, then get down to the Nav for that before you board your coach. Or if you don't have tickets, you can hang around and enjoy a pre-match show from 2 p.m. with a Fun Boy 2. Free entry, first come, first served. 80s and 90s, floor fillers and bangers, etc., etc. You know the drill around that. So do check that out. Do enjoy the game. Here's a quick video to remind you about what you can get at the Trent Nav on match day.
Hey up me duckies, a quick rundown of match days at the Big Shed. We're open from 10, serving full English breakfast, teas, coffees and, believe it or not, beers. Father's Footy Quiz is followed by the lunchtime kickoffs, and the outdoor kitchen is fired up from midday, serving sourdough pizzas, burgers, hot dogs, pies and sausage rolls. Lovely. Pints start at £4. We have a great selection of cask ales and lagers to lubricate the vocal cords for a bit of a sing-song before the game. After the match, we've got some great DJs and live bands booked. So get your send down to the Trent Nav. Win or lose, we're having a booze. And if we draw, we'll have some more.
Thanks to Nav as ever for their support. Two things I want to ask you about then. The first thing, David, is I think Paul on our pre-match show was saying this is your 28th fixture at Wembley since 2011 or something. It's our second. How much of a bearing do you think that has on the game from a football point of view, your players' experience versus our lack of experience, or is it a non-factor for you?
I didn't know that actually. I knew there'd been a lot. I didn't realize it had been that many. I don't know, like, because I remember as a fan, I remember going for that first semi-final with United in 2011, and the nerves were really, really high, really kind of anxiety inducing. And the players are human beings, so maybe it does have a like that sort of effect. So there's players in City's team who who haven't played at Wembley before and haven't kind of had that experience. But I guess the kind of collective nature of the fact that most of the team there have that big game experience and have have the experience from the finals, it kind of carries everybody else along, which I don't know if Forest have. I was speaking to Daniel Story earlier, Forest fan and journalist, and he was talking about how there was only 2 players in the Forest squad who had played at Wembley in the last time Forest were there. And one of them was playing for Huddersfield. He was playing against Forest when it was Harry Truffalo. And so
Toffolo, you're gonna get stuff in the comments if you say Truffalo. So I'll let you correct
I literally saw his name for the first time when you played Spurs on Monday night, and was like, oh, that I've never heard of him before. I wonder who he is. Kind of having a quick Google. Then Daniel mentioned him earlier, and now in my head I was just like, can't remember his name. Say it confidently. Hopefully that'll go well. Didn't go well, but you. So that you don't have that sort of big game experience at Wembley, and I don't know if as a collective the nerves kind of take hold. Obviously, when City went there in 2011, they didn't really have it either, but they did win the game. So I don't know how kind of prohibitive it can be. It might be a factor. It might be a bigger factor than I'm giving it credit for, because you would understand, certainly in the season that Forest are having. I suspect that. I mean, I suspect the mood would be a lot different if you'd lost to Spurs on Monday night, because then it's 3 defeats in a row, and it feels like the season, the wheels could be coming off the season. Whereas now it feels like you've rescued that, and it feels like you're back, like you've got the momentum back, and you kind of got the final push to get into the top 4 or top 5 now. And obviously you've got an FA Cup semi-final, which if you win, first major final for 35 years or so. It's a decent kind of option to have. And if you don't win it, you've still got the backup now of knowing that the top 4 race is still in your hands and still kind of going the way you want it to go. So again, we talked before City played Villa, and that maybe changes the dynamic a little bit, but you'll still be in fairly decent control of your own destiny at that point. So there is the nerves that you could be about to lose something, like you're within touching distance and you don't want to mess it up. But there's also the kind of the positivity that comes from the momentum that you've had all season. And in a weird way, City haven't had that momentum because they've been up, down, up, down, up, down all season. There's been nothing to kind of build on. And so you kind of get to this final and think, well, there's so many factors at play. You just don't know which ones will play out too much. City have the experience, and the Forest are kind of there on vibes a lot of the way. But City's vibes are quite bad for most of this season. But City have been in decent form in the last few weeks. So, like, there's so many kind of twists and turns that I think what you could end up seeing is actually two teams are a little bit nervy. I think City will feel like they won't feel like the FA Cup will rescue the season in so far as they were supposed to be in a title race, and they've kind of scraping top 5 or attempting to scrape top 5. But it's like it's not a trophy that is to be sniffed at. It's it's not something that you just kind of go, oh yeah, well, if we win the FA Cup, fantastic. That's a nice little addition to the season. It does change quite significantly the outcome of the season. It feels like there's been something achieved in the season instead of a season that has been quite dour and downbeat for most of it. And so you get to the semi-final and you think, well, don't mess this up now. And I feel like both teams are in that same sort of space. So yeah, there's so many factors. I don't know, kind of, maybe they all cancel each other out and we just get a really nervy game for 90 minutes and then one of us has to win it on penalties, which if it is, it's going to be Forest because City can't take a penalty to save their life.
Good. I wouldn't mind that. We are good at them, obviously. The other aspect to ask you about is the fans in the ground. We've noted, we've sold out our allocation as expected. City have struggled to sell out theirs. The usual comments are made. Is it unfair that City fans are singled out for not taking up tickets? Is it down to finances, volume of games we've referenced? Should we be cutting them a bit of slack, or do you see where people are coming from?
No, I think they should be cut slack because I wouldn't expect this to be widely known outside of City fan bases, but there's a lot of ticketing problems with City at the moment. There's a lot of discontent over season tickets. There's a lot of discontent over match by match tickets. And just general policies around ticketing at City is really causing a problem. We played Leicester a few weeks ago, and one of the best things that could have happened was that City scored inside the first minute because there was a protest in that game where thousands of fans stayed on the concourse for the first 9 minutes. And the 9 was the number picked because City had just partnered with Viagogo, who not a company that had seen to have much support when it comes for ticket reselling. And I mean, ticket reselling on there, you can pay extortionate amounts of money for tickets on there, well above face value. And there is also the feeling that City's tickets are too high anyway. And so the City scored and there was nobody in the ground, and that was the best thing that could have happened because it had to be referenced then. When Match of the Day show the goal and when it's on the highlights package, somebody has to say, well, there are actually thousands of fans in the concourse waiting to come down because of XYZ, and it's all the ticketing issues that are going on at City. And then you fold that into a trip to Wembley, and I mean, I can't speak for other fans, and it wouldn't be right for me to say for Forest, for instance, what it would be like getting to a Wembley semi-final. But I don't think the semi-final should be at Wembley on the basis that it feels like you have to keep making that same journey again and again and again. You like when you get to the semi-final, neutral ground is absolutely fine, but I think you then have to have the special occasion of Wembley being the final is kind of lost with the semi-finals being there as well. I remember, but then again, I'm coming from the viewpoint of somebody whose team has been to Wembley pretty much every season for the last 10 years, and you kind of get used to that kind of regularity of it, and the specialness of it does diminish because of that. So I think there's a bit of that. I think not necessarily Wembley fatigue, but semi-final Wembley fatigue is a thing. I think if this was the final, I think you'd have seen like the uptake would be a lot quicker and a lot easier for it. And I think there is just kind of a whole multitude of factors that have all come together that you get to a semi-final. I mean, I don't even know what the prices are for this Wembley game, because I haven't even considered going to this. My season ticket as a fan has gone up and up and up for the last 10 years. So the club have announced a freeze for next season for the first time since they froze coming out of lockdown. They promised us the same prices as pre-lockdown coming out of COVID. And then before that, the last freeze was the season Guardiola arrived. Every year after that, it's gone up and up and up. And my ticket is above inflation. The increases that it's gone through since I took it has got a well above inflation from that point. And the result of that is what I do now is I go to my 19 league games, and I used to go to all the League Cup games and all the FA Cup games and all the Champions League games. But because my ticket has gone up and up and up, I've started, I'll drop out of the League Cup. I won't go to the League Cup anymore. Oh, okay, well, I won't go to the FA Cup anymore. Oh, and now I don't go to the Champions League anymore either. I do this season because I was in the Cup for long reasons that I won't explain. I was in the Cup scheme last season, and I forgot to opt out of it for this season, but I'll be opting out of it at the end of the season. And then next year, I will do my 19 Premier League games, maybe 1 or 2 Champions League games after the draw, and I've been able to pick up a ticket here and there. But more than likely, I will do my 19 Premier League games, and that's it. And I think there's a lot of fans who feel that same way. And yeah, sure, it's great to be in an FA Cup semi-final. City have been there before. They have had a situation where us as fans have had to continually go to Wembley, and it's not a cheap day out. If it's the first time, I get it. I get the buzz to be there. If it's the second and third time, I get the buzz to be there. At this stage now, I don't feel as though it is the most accessible thing anymore. It's not certainly a semi-final is not the sort of thing where you drop everything to try and get tickets to go to anymore for all of those reasons kind of bundled in together. And that isn't to say that it's not a special occasion for anybody that gets to the semi-final. It's just different perspectives of where it's kind of come from and where it's kind of going. And I think if the club, City especially, if the club wanted to help the fans out, then they sign sponsorship deals left, right, and centre with various different advertisers in various different territories. They don't need to keep putting prices up, and indeed, they announced record profits when the season was entirely behind closed doors, and that told me they don't need the gate revenue to make record profits. So what that says is you don't need to keep putting the ticket prices up. If you want games like this at Wembley to sell out and to have the high demand, then you have to cut people slack elsewhere in the calendar. City, I don't know the number of games City have played this season, but it's less than they would normally play in a season because they've not got as far in other competitions as they have in previous seasons. But they still play a lot of games, and that's a lot of money. And I'm not going to sit here and tell fans how they should spend their money. If they don't want to spend it on a Wembley semi-final, I'm not going to say that they should.
No, that's a very fair answer. And people who listen to this regularly will know that I've had my gripes with Forest ticketing pricing policy. So I certainly
across the board, and I'd say this as with the privilege of having watched my team win a lot of things recently. Cities are far too high, and if cities are too high, I can imagine that like football clubs at their heart are all the same. Football fans at their heart are all the same. So I can imagine the issues that City fans are facing are faced up and down the Premier League, up and down the Football League, and like across the board, tickets just need to be cheaper and more accessible, and policies need to have the fans in mind. We've seen West Ham have their issues with concessions. I think Spurs had the same sort of issues. Liverpool have protested over prices recently. United fans are not happy with theirs. It's up and down the country. It's not exclusive to City by any means. And I think it's about time that we as fans got together and went, you know what, our club's not good, your club's not good. Like we are united, like as like customers of a global product, which is an awful thing to say, but we are all that. We are all the same. And as soon as we realise that, and as soon as we start pushing towards that, we might get some fairer ticketing policies across the board. It's kind of how the FSA got the away ticket cap and that sort of thing. You have to keep putting pressure on. You have to keep putting demanding things of clubs to reduce their prices. So anytime I see any club who are doing that, I think, yeah, great on you. Do it. It needs doing.
Agreed, massively. Just before we finish up and ask David for one more final thought on the game, just a word of thanks for Peak Media Marketing. If you are looking to grow your business, attract new customers, they are the people for you. If you want to improve your website, if you want to climb Google rankings, which is massively important, sadly, in the cynical world we live in, then get in touch with them. If you want to improve your social media, get in touch with them as well. It's a way to grow your business, take it to the next level. And they do have a Forest connection as well. And the chap who set this up is a big Forest fan. So do check out peakmediamarketing.co.uk/Forest. Just lastly then, David, on a football matter, I just wanted to ask you about, and forgot to at the time, you do have two fullbacks who are attacking midfielders. I think they'll probably both play. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong if they do. Is that the area of weakness that we can exploit with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, or are you not too concerned about that?
I'm concerned about pace on the break. It's not necessarily the fullbacks. It's I mean, Nico O'Reilly is inexperienced, but he's fairly quick. Mateus Nunes is not a fullback, but has been competent in that position. I think the biggest thing is the kind of age profile of the centre of the pitch. There are options to play younger players. But if we end up with a team that has De Bruyne, Gundogan, Bernardo in it, then that's not a team that once you get past it can get back. So if you have pace that beats the centre of midfield, then it doesn't really matter whether the fullbacks are experienced or inexperienced. They're kind of facing the Alamo. They're stuck without any help. So I mean, in the past, 1v1 defending has been really key for City, and you think back to the treble season, the number of times where it would be 1v1, Diaz or Akanji or Stones would stand them up, take the ball. That hasn't really happened this season either, partly through form, partly through injuries. And I think a lot of it is that there's been a lot of games where there's been not a lot of support running towards their own goal. And now, with a little bit of youth in there, that might have changed in the last few weeks. But I still think I'm not necessarily concerned, especially over the inexperience of the fullbacks. I'm a little bit more concerned over kind of the legs in the team. There's less legs, fewer legs. It should, like the grammar nerd in me says it should be fewer legs, but we're talking about legs as a concept, aren't we? Rather than legs as like the physical number of legs. There's not a lot of legs in the team, and that I think depends entirely on the Guardiola team selection. There could be, if it's a more youthful team, I would have a little bit more confidence that they can deal with counterattacks. But if it's they've been dubbed the unks, the uncles of the team. If it's those that play, then City might struggle with pace on the break.
Excellent. We shall leave it there. Apologies if people heard a chainsaw in the background. I just realised some blokes have turned up to hack down some trees in our garden. So hopefully you didn't hear that. I don't think you did. So no, we shall leave it there. If you've enjoyed that, do us a favour. Hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon. Get to have more new members of late. Or just give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. David, thank you very much. Lots of great insight there. This last time we'll speak this season, but we'll definitely speak again next season. You're not going to get relegated with all those 115 charges by the sound of it. So, yeah, look forward to speaking to you next season. Thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
No, it's been a great pleasure. Enjoy the day, everyone. Enjoy the game. We'll have more stuff before we go. Obviously, Henry Winter and Matt Ford will speak to us, hopefully. But if you don't see you before, that's a terrible outro. I've had so little sleep. I mean, I think I got to sleep about maybe 2:30 and up about 7, something like that. If we don't see you before the game, then we shall see you soon.